All right, so we're diving into Aussie energy today, specifically how it's going to play out in the 2025 election.
Yeah, it's a hot topic, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And we've got this article, The Great Aussie Power Bill Shock, um,
Right.
how the LNP dropped the ball on energy.
Yeah, it's a pretty hard-hitting title.
It really is. And it gets right to the point. Aussies are feeling the pain of high energy bills, and this article dives into why that is.
Yeah, it connects the dots between, those policy decisions that can seem kind of abstract to the actual impact on people's wallets.
Exactly, and it starts with this whole gas export situation.
Right.
Apparently, we were sitting pretty with cheap gas, like $3 a gigajoule,
Yeah, those are the days.
and then bam, it jumps to over $10.
Yeah, so essentially what happened was we started exporting massive amounts of gas, which tied our domestic prices to the global market.
Okay, so we ended up competing with international buyers for our own resources.
Basically, yeah. And the global market, as we know, can be pretty volatile.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But did that really impact the price of electricity too?
Oh, absolutely. See, the national electricity market, that's the system that manages electricity supply and demand across the country. It uses gas prices as a benchmark. So when gas prices shot up, electricity followed suit.
It's like a domino effect, right?
Exactly. And those higher costs trickle down to your power bill.
Ouch. And the article doesn't let up there. It also goes after the previous government's focus on coal-fired power.
Yeah, there are some big questions around coal, especially when it comes to reliability and cost.
Yeah, that's something I've heard about these coal-fired power stations. They're getting old, breaking down more often.
Exactly. And on top of that, global coal prices have been climbing too.
So it's a double whammy, unreliable, and expensive.
Pretty much. And the article highlights this really interesting contrast with the ACT. They went all in on renewables.
Right, and they actually managed to lower power prices.
Yeah, it's a pretty compelling example because it challenges that idea that renewables are automatically more expensive.
I bet that's something a lot of people listening want to hear, especially with the election coming up. It's not just about the environment anymore. It's about our wallets.
You got it. And this article makes that connection crystal clear. What you decide at the ballot box can directly impact your energy bill.
Okay, so we've got the gas exports pushing prices up, coal looking shaky, but then there's this whole renewable roller coaster thing. What's that about?
Well, the article's talking about the constant policy changes around renewable energy.
So like axing the carbon price, changing the renewable energy target, all that.
Exactly. And all that back and forth creates a lot of uncertainty for investors.
So it's like we're sending mixed messages to the people we need to actually build these renewable projects.
You got it. And that inconsistency makes it really hard for the renewable sector to take off.
So we have all this potential for renewable energy, but we're not using it effectively because of basically political flip-flopping.
It's a missed opportunity, really. It's not just about the environment. It's about jobs and economic growth in the renewable sector, too.
Okay, so gas, coal, renewables. What else does the article point to as a problem?
The article points to another big issue. It's infrastructure, rather the lack of it. Specifically, the lack of investment in transmission infrastructure, the stuff that connects renewable energy sources to the people who use it.
So it's like we have all this amazing renewable energy potential, but we can't get it to where it's needed.
Exactly. And that leaves us vulnerable to blackouts and energy insecurity. It's a pretty big challenge, no doubt.
It sounds like it. But hey, the article's got to offer some solutions too, right?
It does. It does. And some of them are pretty interesting, actually.
So we've been talking about all these energy problems. It's kind of bleak.
Yeah, it's not exactly a feel-good story.
But the article doesn't just leave us hanging, right? There's got to be some light at the end of the tunnel.
Oh, yeah. There are definitely some solutions. And the article actually highlights some pretty cool success stories.
Like the ACT, they're the poster child for how to do renewables, right?
Right. While the federal government was dragging its feet on renewables, the ACT government took charge.
So they were actually putting their money where their mouth is, so to speak.
Exactly. They implemented policies that really incentivized investment in renewables.
And it worked. They actually lowered energy bills.
Yeah, around a 10% decrease in household energy bills since they went all in on renewables.
That's got to be music to the ears of voters who are struggling with those sky-high energy costs.
It shows that a different approach is possible, that clean energy doesn't have to mean higher costs.
So it's a win-win for the environment and for people's wallets.
Absolutely. And the article also raises this really interesting point about the role of politics in all this.
It does kind of lay a lot of the blame at the feet of the LNP, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, it mentions this observation by Malcolm Turnbull that there was this denialist faction within the LNP that really influenced energy policy.
Okay, so it's suggesting that ideology played a big part in the decisions that were made.
Right, and that those decisions weren't necessarily based on what was best for the country's energy future.
But was there anything good about the LNP's approach? The article does mention gas exports as an economic driver.
Yeah, the idea was to boost economic growth by becoming a major gas exporter.
So there was an economic rationale, even if it led to higher domestic gas prices.
Right, and I think it's important to acknowledge those competing priorities.
It's a complex issue. There are always trade-offs.
Absolutely, and as voters, we need to weigh those trade-offs and decide what matters most to us.
Lower energy costs, a stronger economy, a cleaner environment. It's a tough balancing act.
And understanding these nuances can help us make more informed decisions at the ballot box.
Okay, so we've got this success story with the ACT. We've talked about the political side of things. But what about actual solutions for the future? What does the article recommend?
Well, it lays out a few key steps, and one of the big ones is constraining gas exports.
It's basically putting a lid on how much gas we send overseas.
Exactly. The idea is to make sure we have enough gas for our own needs at a reasonable price.
Putting Australians first sounds pretty reasonable.
And then, of course, there's the whole push for renewables.
Got to get those solar panels and wind turbines going.
Absolutely. We need to invest heavily in renewables and storage solutions if we want to ditch fossil fuels.
It's a big shift, moving away from the way we've always done things.
It's a huge undertaking. It's going to require buy-in from the government, from businesses, from everyone, really.
And what about those subsidies to the gas industry? The article mentioned something about that.
Right. The suggestion is to redirect those subsidies towards immediate relief for high energy prices.
So things like helping households who are struggling to pay their bills.
Exactly. And also investing in energy efficiency programs.
So it's a two-pronged approach, short-term relief and long-term solutions.
Yeah, we need to tackle the immediate crisis, but also lay the groundwork for a more sustainable energy future.
So we've got a plan. Constrain gas exports, ramp up renewables, help people now. It's ambitious, but it could work.
It's definitely a tall order, but it's not impossible. The ACT proved that.
And it all comes down to voters, doesn't it?
It does. Ultimately, the voters will decide what kind of energy future they want for Australia.
Well, we've really dug into this energy issue, haven't we? From those crazy high prices to possible solutions, even that glimpse of like a brighter future over in the ACT. But now we're getting close to the 2025 election, and I got to ask, what does all this mean for the average voter?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? We've kind of pulled back the curtain on energy policy, and now it's your turn to take this info and use it when you vote.
It's easy to get lost in all the details, but the big takeaway is this. Energy policy, it's not just some theoretical thing. This stuff hits you right where it hurts, in your wallet, and it shapes the future of the country.
Right, and this election gives you the power to choose what kind of energy future you want for Australia. Think about it. Do we stick with fossil fuels? Or do we go all in on clean, renewable energy?
Do we want to be a leader in this global shift to sustainability? Or do we fall behind, stuck with old tech and those ever-increasing costs? These aren't just like theoretical questions. These decisions have real-world impacts.
And your vote matters. It can determine which path we take. Don't just accept what politicians are promising. Do your research, look into their policies, and don't be afraid to ask the hard questions. How are they going to tackle these energy challenges? We need answers.
It's your future, your country, your vote. Make it count. Choose leaders who are committed to building a sustainable energy future for Australia, one that's affordable and secure for everyone.
This deep dive, it's hopefully given you the knowledge you need to be part of this important conversation about Australia's energy future. Keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep pushing for better. The future of energy in Australia, it's literally in your hands.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll be back soon to explore another topic that's important to you. But until then, keep learning, keep thinking critically, and yeah, keep those energy bills down.